Hello. So today I wanted to talk to you about some flaked or chipped stone tool types that we find in the Mississippian period and around Parkin and Northeast Arkansas region. So the first two I'm going to talk about are arrow points. So they went on the tip of an arrow. And then the other one I'm going to talk about is a hoe. So it was used in gardening or agriculture. And so the first one is called a Madison point. And a Madison point is just a little triangular point. And this one, the very tip is broken off, but it would have been an actual point. And this is made on what we call Crowley's Ridge chert. And it's this peanut butter colored rock. You can find it on Crowley's Ridge, which is near to Parkin, just a few miles to the west. And you can also find it. It comes there's some bluffs on the east side of the Mississippi River, and you can find Crowley's Ridge chert cobbles there as well. So this was local flint, local chert that they were using. And again, like I said, it's flaked, so you can, all those little chips like you saw in the videos and the pictures that I put up last week, just little flakes chipped off the edge to shape this into a little triangle point. And then the other point type is called a Nodina point, and it's actually named after the Nodina site, which is also in Northeast Arkansas, a little bit further north than Parkin. And you can see it is not a triangle, it's what we call willow leaf shaped. So it's kind of a ovally shape. I can take my fingers off, you can see there's a point up here, and then it's rounded just a little bit at that back end. And this one, again, made the same way with just flint napping, tiny little flakes taken off the edges to give it that nice shape. And you can see it's a really thin little blade as well. So a lot of skill used to make this. And this, again, attached to arrow and used with a bow and arrow for hunting. And then the other, we find knives and other lithic materials as well that have been flint napped. So find utilized flakes. So sometimes you just break a flake off of some other bigger rock, and you can use that as a knife or a cutting tool. They're very sharp flakes. And sometimes they'll be touched up just a little bit to make them a little bit sharper. I don't have any examples of those right here with me. But the other one that we find that's a bigger, more substantial tool that I think is a really neat one are called Mill Creek chert hoes. And this one's broken, but you can see it's very large and it's pretty heavy. And it would have been hafted to a large stick, so attached to a large stick up here at this top part. And then this bottom part was the blade. And so just like a modern hoe, you use it to move the ground, weed things, plant things, keep your soil turned over, that kind of thing. But do you see the shininess of it? And so that shininess is from use. It's use wear. When you use this in the ground, it builds up this shiny layer on it and dulls the blade. So you can see I can run my finger along this and it's smooth almost. It kind of comes to a point, but it's smooth. It's not jagged, it's not sharp, I wouldn't say. But if you look right here, you can see that it's not shiny because a little flake has been taken off right there. And this flake might have been taken off by a tractor or something, but we do find these little flakes that have this sheen on them sometimes, and we can tell that those are resharpening flakes from a hoe. So if you use this in the field and you're using it and you're weeding and it gets really dulled down, take out your tool and you nap off some flakes around this bottom edge, and it takes off that sheen, it takes off those dull pieces, and it resharpens this whole blade. And then you can keep using it. And sometimes we find these whole, or sometimes broken, but substantial pieces of a Mill Creek chert hoe. But sometimes we just find one little flake, and so we know that people had Mill Creek chert hoes, even though we only find one little resharpening flake. But you can tell because it's this light colored chert, which is Mill Creek chert, and it comes from Southern Illinois, and it has that shine on it, so we can tell that it was a used flake and they broke it off and then took the hoe and used it some more. But the other interesting thing about this, I talked about the Crowley's Ridge chert, is a local chert that you could just get around here where you live. But Mill Creek chert only comes from southern Illinois. So you had to either go up there and get it or know some people up there who could send it down to you. So that's really interesting that we know that, because that means that people had trade networks up into Illinois from here. So they were trading other kinds of goods to get this rock so that they could make these hoes. So this is one of my favorite artifact types, actually. Just the resharpening flakes I think are very cool. We found one in the Richards Bridge excavation materials, and it was just a really exciting thing, because you know just what it is. It's not just a flake that came off of something, it's a flake that came off of a hoe like this. So we know that they were doing some kind of farming there. We don't know what scale of farming, but we know that they were, and that they had these on that site, and that's very neat. So next week we're going to talk about some other lithic artifact types, but I just want to talk to you real quick about these real common lithics that we find in Parkin and Northeast Arkansas in the late Mississippi period. So I will talk to you again next week.